Hello and welcome to the video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at this exotic frame here. Now this is a little bit of an unusual animal for the kind of stuff that we tend to look at on the channel, but it's a frame that I've been interested in getting my hands on because it's the kind of frame that's actually being flown. Well, it's the exact same frame actually that's been flown by a lot of the high-end pilots, including people like Luke Bannister. So this is an out-and-out racing frame. It's not designed to do anything else but allow you to use huge motors, big props, lots of power, and fly around at ridiculous speeds and give you maximum performance. Because of that, the way it's put together is a little bit different from all the other frames that we've looked at on the channel. And that's really what I want to talk about here and kind of show you around this frame. Because as I've been putting it together and playing with it here, it's put a bit of a smile on my face. And also I want to show you a couple of build tips of how you put this thing together, because initially when you start looking at all the parts and you undo the package, there's loads and loads of pieces, but the reason there are that many pieces is because there's lots of spares. So actually you get 5 arms, not the 4 arms you need, so you get a spare arm in the box, and there are also lots of different versions of screws, both metal and nylon, so depending on how you want to build this, you can build it exactly as you need to fit the components that you want to use and to give you the strength that you need for the particular flying style racing that you have. Now, one of the first things you'll have noticed here is this clear bubble on the top. This is actually a polycarbonate canopy that's designed to be part of the chassis. There are 2 that comes in the kit. One is a 1mm one, which is slightly less rigid, and there's a 1.5mm thick one as well. The 1.5mm thick one is the one that I'll probably end up using when I build this little guy out. The 1mm one saves you a couple of grams of weight and is what most of the professional pilots are using when they're racing this guy. The pod itself is designed to do a couple of things. First of all, using the anodized aluminium mount. All of the anodized pieces on the frame come as this lovely kind of orangey anodized colour. The FPV camera mounts at the front. The video transmitter is kind of going to be stickied into the back of it. You can mount the FPV antenna out the back, and then underneath you've got room for your flight controller and your little receiver as well. You're going to have to use something like an XSR or one of those really small postage stamp size numbers to fit everything under this canopy. So before I actually talk about the individual components, it's worthwhile having a quick look at the Bolt website itself. Now the Bolt website has all the different Kraken pieces, all of the motors and everything else that they do, and you can see that there's actually lots of version of the Kraken around. Kraken as a frame's been kicking around for about 2 years, and they have lots of different versions with different arm lengths and other bits and pieces as well. So depending on how you want to build it, you can build your own frame with the kind of arms that you want, with a thickness of PDB, thickness of carbon fibre, all those kind of pieces exactly how you need it to be. This kit that we're looking at here is absolutely everything that you get if you order a Kraken 5 WORX. Now I've got this one from DroneBit here in the UK. DroneBit have just become a reseller for Bolt, which is great. So these are the guys that I tend to get a lot of my bits and pieces from, and when I found that they had this in stock, I had to get hold of one to play with one. So this is going to be an exciting build because you are going to have to be very careful about making sure that everything can fit under this canopy, and it's going to provide a very compact, very quick little model when I finish putting this thing together. So let's have a quick whistle stop of the parts. This is the power distribution board. The way it works is that this is where all your ESCs and batteries are going to solder onto. On the underneath is where you put the voltage regulator. Voltage regulator is an 8-volt unit. I haven't got one yet. I need to wait until those come into stock at DroneBit and I'll order one. The bottom plate is a carbon fibre unit, and they go together, and the polycarbonate shell goes over the top. The arms are a little unusual. They're very thick, but they're actually carbon fibre top and bottom, and it has polymer pieces in the middle. Then you have a couple of bags with an awful lot of bits. There is that little bracket for the camera in there with some anodized pieces. So this is all the stuff to mount the canopy and to do all the canopy bits. The other bag that you get is all of the pieces to actually put the frame together, including nylon standoffs, and you have all these little kind of red washers that are there to put under the nuts to make sure that you don't crack the polycarbonate shell as you're putting it together. The arms are really interesting because I've never seen arms like this before. They only have the two mounting holes for the motors on the end, and the hole in between those two mounting holes is actually for the bottom of the motor. So let me very quickly show you these two polycarbonate shells that you get. This is the slightly thinner one, and this is the slightly thicker one, and they look almost identical. It's only when you turn them round and look at the thickness of the plastic you can see the difference between the two. Again, this very lightweight one is what the racing guys will be using. I'll probably end up putting the 1.5mm one on mine. It's that little bit stiffer. The arms themselves are really unusual. The motor mounts themselves only have the two bolts on, and those two bolts are going to match up with the motors I'll show you in a second. And the arms go together and are actually held in place on top of the bottom plate and underneath the power distribution board, and that locks them in place, and you just need two screws for each side. But they are very, very strong, but they're really designed for these motors here, these 206 2350 kV motors. If I just take one out and show you what these look like, again, this wonderful pretty anodized color at the top, and they have an open bottom with the two screws that allow you to mount it onto the arms, and they do feel very nice. Actually, I haven't used these yet, but the quality in here and the way they're put together, these again are very lightweight motors, really designed for out and out racing, but they fit perfectly on the edge of these arms. I am going to have to look for some really thin ESCs to not spoil the looks of this thing as it's flying. If we talk a little bit about putting this thing together, first thing you need to do is install these tapped spacer grommet things in your power distribution board. Again, you get 5, so if one rolls under the sofa then you've got a spare, but the way you need to put these little guys in, hopefully I can get that in the camera, there we go, it's actually got little teeth which are designed to bite into the power distribution board. So what you need to do is make sure you got the power distribution board the right way up, so that the voltage regulator is underneath if you've got that installed. And then what you need to do is use one of the screws that comes with the kit. I use one of the arms as well, and use that to just tighten the screw up on the other side of the power distribution board, and that will pull the spacer into the PDB and lock it in place. Once you've done that, it looks like this. That's probably the hardest part of the build done right there. The rest of the build is relatively straightforward. What you have to do is then you have to actually attach the arms, and this will become the top plate. And the way you do the arms, there's loads of bolts in the kit. One of the outside bolts up, and that needs to be long enough so that you can get the nut on the top, and it will capture the top plate as well, but also you're going to have to open some holes in the polycarbonate shell that you want to use. Now, there is some instructions on the Bolt website about how to do that. They talk about drilling is a fantastic option, and whenever you make a hole in the polycarbonate shell, you should use something like a soldering iron just to melt the edges very slightly to help stop any cracks being formed in that polycarbonate shell as you fly around, and use those little fibre red spacers whenever you're going to put screws through the polycarbonate shell. So this will give you an idea of kind of what it looks like. I have got the metal screws on the outside. Again, those screws on the outside are the ones that are actually going to hold the polycarbonate shell in place, and then on the inside I've used the nylon screws. Again, there are several lengths in the kit. These are the ones that I'll try with first of all. That should allow me to put my flight controller on there and actually raise it up a little bit, because we are going to have a little bit of room under the flight controller for the battery strap. I expect that once I've got this frame together, there's going to be lots and lots of spare parts, so I'm going to keep everything nice and safe, and then that means that I've got the spares around too. And hopefully if I just put the polycarbonate shell on top, you can kind of see how the bolts need to go through these pieces, so you're going to have to actually cut them out. So looking at the polycarbonate shell, you can see the places on here that where you need to put the holes in for the mounting screws so you can mount it onto the frame. There's also the hole for the video antenna, there's the hole for the FPV camera, and you're also going to have to cut the hole out the front. If I just grab the little piece here and show how this goes in. You need to actually mount the camera onto this little aluminium bit, and then this fits inside the canopy. And actually the tolerances and everything are so cute that even if I let go of this, it's not going to fall out, and that will be held in place by the screws. And you can see, in fact I've just put that on the wrong way around, but you can see what I mean. When you put this thing together, you can see the very impressive rake that you have on the actual polycarbonate shell and the FPV camera itself. It's quite a rake. It's probably about, I'll put this the right way around, I'm just going to show you. It's probably about a 30-degree rake. So to actually have a view in front of you, you're going to have to be flying at least 30 to nearly 45 degrees. So this is absolutely designed for going full tilt. And then once you've got those pieces, you've got the foam bit for the bottom for the battery, and then it's a standard kind of setup for the rest of the frame. So I just wanted to talk about this and draw your attention to it. Let me know if this is a frame that you want me to do a build with. I haven't bought it with that intention. I was just going to do it for an own kind of private project. But if it is, then do let me know and I'll try and build it on the channel so you can actually see how this all goes together. I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in the frame and also these motors as well. And I'll also put a link back down to the main Bolt website too if you want to go and have a look at the other versions of this very pretty racing frame. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video, and particularly for watching right to the very end. We try and release a video on Tuesday and Friday, and sometimes we'll release 1 or 2 extra ones in a week as well. All of the videos on the channel are organised into easy to use playlists, so do have a look in there, because if you're interested in a subject, we organise all the videos on that subject so you can find them easily all together in one place. If you like what we're doing, then please like and subscribe and tell others about the channel so they can come and join as well. We're available in all of the usual social media places, particularly in places like Instagram, Twitter, and we also share all of our 3D designs on Thingiverse.